1470 WOCA.
Ocala.
Proof in the next book we're going to talk about that you can illustrate without illustrations.
Yes.
This book is filled with imagery, and words are the vehicle through which the imagery makes its way into your brain. James Anderson is very skilled at this, and it sounds like he was a publisher before he was a writer, although probably was always a writer, I'm guessing. I guess before a published writer, maybe that's a better way of saying that. He's on the phone. He's written a book called The Never Open Desert Diner. It's a mystery novel, and it is filled with something that I find fascinating. When I drove through the desert in 1977 one time. No, twice actually I did it that year, and the only two times I've ever actually driven through the desert, and wondered, I take that back. I did it later on when my son was with me once. But still, every time I've done that, I've often wondered, what is it like to live there? It's like when I drive through the mountains, what is it like to live here, And I always come back to Florida where it's flat and there's lots of water. James Anderson also is an award-winning documentary producer. He wrote and directed the film Zydeco by Birth, which interested me because I've been trying to play this on accordion, this musical style.
Yeah, you do well.
You gotta, no, I don't. I do it horrible.
Fun.
I do it horrible.
It's fun. Jambalaya comes out really good.
Yeah, I think that song lends itself to it. James, good morning, James Anderson. How are you?
Good morning, Larry Robert. How are you?
Pretty good. Are you on the West Coast?
I am in Miami right now. I have a signing at Books and Books in Coral Gables, so I arrived last night.
Oh, okay. Well,
nice.
So you have jet lag a little bit, don't you?
I'm getting used to it. I've got 15 cities and 12 left, so yeah, I'm getting into the groove.
Well, thank you for choosing us as one of the stations to help you promote this. As a publisher, this is probably something you always encourage your writers to do, is to get on these little radio shows and get the word out, huh?
Well, of course, you want as many people as possible to be aware of the work. But I kind of sit in my office and listen to them talk about how frightened they were or anxious or whatever, and I used to think to myself, "Oh, you whiners!" And now I'm out doing it, and I want to call every one of them and say, "I am so sorry."
But what about the other direction? The direction where you were giving them advice when it came to the content of the book. Did your own advice ring true for yourself?
One of the things about life is it's so easy to give others advice, and it's so tough to take it, and it's even tougher to take your own. But I work on it, and I had some good people like Sterling Watson, who lives up in St. Pete, and others who would look at it and say, "Oh, hey, I really like this," or that part sucks. So you work at it, and it took 6 months for the rough draft, but then 2.5 years of revisions.
Ah, okay. And I mentioned imagery. You do write with a visual flair. You have a way of writing that puts pictures in your mind. So, and maybe that's because this is my type of. I just like that kind of a book. But I think that's part of what endeared me to this story. Plus the setting. I think the setting had a lot for me too. Mm-hmm.
Well, it has a big effect on me too, and I love the desert because it's a special place. A lot of people think there's nothing there, and for most people there isn't, and yet everything is there. Everything that matters is brought to the forefront, and it's kind of a place where strange things, ordinary things, become strange.
Well, you've lived such an eclectic life because you've done a lot of different jobs in a lot of different capacities. So this really makes you a true people person because you really got to get to the nitty-gritty of the people themselves with whatever it was they're doing.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm asked, well, what were you thinking about when you sat down to write a mystery? I didn't sit down to write a mystery. I sat down to write the best novel I could. But when you write about people, the greatest mystery is people. People are always going to be a mystery. And you can count on them to always be human. And these characters are very human, in good ways and bad.
So the protagonist is Ben Jones. Tell us who Ben Jones is.
Ben Jones is a late 30s truck driver. He's the orphan son of a Jewish social worker and a Native American. He was abandoned as an infant on the Warm Springs Reservation in Oregon, and then he was raised by an older couple in Price, Utah, which is kind of a mining town south of Salt Lake City. And he his first job out of high school was driving a truck, and then the company went bankrupt, and he kept driving and started his own little independent trucking company, where he delivers to desert rats, people who have chosen to exile themselves out in the middle of nowhere. And it's a calling for him, but it also suits his nature.
Did you ever live that yourself as a truck driver? How long were you a truck driver?
I wasn't a truck driver for very long, and it was very early on in my life.
That's what I figured. I figured it was early. Yeah.
And the thing about driving a truck is I have tremendous respect for truck drivers. You're basically piloting a 747 down a narrow alleyway.
Right.
And you've got little flies and so on darting in and out and slamming on their brakes and flipping you off and everything else, and you can't take your focus off the road or tragedy will ensue.
Yeah.
I drove a building supply truck. I had about maybe 10 tons of masonry supplies, and I was a typical 20-year-old, and there was a very attractive woman to my left walking down the road, and I took a look at her, and when I looked back, there was a 7-Up truck stopped, and the next thing I knew, there were 10 tons of masonry supplies and 7-Up all over the road, and so my employer suggested that maybe I might find a better career fit somewhere else.
And you everybody was okay? No, I mean, thank goodness.
Yeah, no, everybody was okay, and typical.
Did the girl come to help? Did the girl come to help? That's my question. Did the girl say, "Oh my, I'm so sorry. Let me help you out"?
And you know what? It's the worst possible outcome because I don't think even that accident got her attention for me.
She probably went home and said, "Guess what I caused today?"
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, she was probably happy. She's looking at herself, saying, "I'm beautiful."
If it would have happened today, she would have been taking a picture of it on her cell phone, putting it on Twitter, and saying, "Look what I did."
So the title itself, I mean, as a publisher, you must have thought, okay, I have to have a good title because titles sometimes get the ball rolling for people. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover or its title, but guess what? Sometimes that's what gets the ball rolling, right? Mm-hmm. So
you know what? That's so true, Larry. And I used to hear that all the time, when I was a publisher. And I remember I was in New York at a sales conference, and one of the salespeople say, "Yes, people say that, but it's just not true." You do judge books by their cover. You do judge books by their title. And it went through a few titles, and basically I put that one out to a bunch of friends, and that's the one they chose.
Oh, is that right? And I think I understand why, because there's something intriguing about passing a diner and wondering, gosh, what do they sell? They're never open.
Yeah.
Well, and it's kept in perfect condition. It looks perfect, but it's always closed. And of course, that's what's at the heart of the Never Open Desert Diner. Its real name is the well-known Desert Diner, but it's been closed for years. And the nasty, embittered old man that owns it, who's kind of a friend of my protagonist, is the ultimate loner. And so eventually you find out why things are the way they are.
You have a pretty girl in the story also, so we'll pick up at that point when we come back out of our break. We will take the little break right now, catch up on the weather and a few other things, and we'll be right back. Our guest is James Anderson. His book is The Never Open Desert Diner. You will love this one. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accidents. Times of clouds and sunshine and warm today. There may be a shower in spots along the coast. The high 80 at the coast, 85 inland. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two. Lows ranging from the low 60s inland to about 70 along the coast. Tomorrow, clouds and some sun, windy and warm with a shower or two along the coast. The high 82 to 86. Friday, mostly cloudy, breezy, and not as warm with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, highs in the upper 70s. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Johnny, what are you doing in the bathroom? What are you saying? Wait. Where are your toy cars? Oh no, tell me you didn't. Honey, call Mike Scott Plumbing.
I didn't do anything.
For once that's true, but little Johnny flushed his toys down the toilet and now it's broke.
Yes. Oh no. I'll get the phone. What's the toll-free number?
866-314-4443.
Got it. 866-314-4443.
Mike Scott Plumbing. If water runs through it, they do it. At Mike Scott Plumbing, from the moment you walk through the doors, it's evident that quality is key. From our fully stocked parts department to our fully trained service technicians who can help with anything from a clogged drain to your irrigation system and even servicing your entire septic system. Visit one of our beautiful showrooms in Hernando or in Wildwood and let us show you how to turn your kitchen and bath dreams into reality. Mike Scott Plumbing. If water runs through it, we do it.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
My name is Erica Olstein. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine at A Better You Healthcare's Pokin' for the People Community Acupuncture. Join us every Monday at 4 p.m. for a relaxing and therapeutic community acupuncture session with like-minded, health-conscious individuals from our community. Pricing is only $35. Group sessions involve yoga breathing and acupuncture for the benefit of stress, anxiety, and depression. Unwind and start your week off right. If stress is leaving you a mess, you need a checkup from the neck up. When you're feeling blue, come to A Better You. A Better You Healthcare, just behind the Paddock Mall on 27th Avenue. For further details, visit abetteryouhealthcare.com or call 615-5566. Again, that number is 615-5566.
All right, 18 minutes after 10 o'clock, when I was younger, my uncle bet me that he could make me say no. And I said, okay, let's see if you can. And he told me this story. He said, you're in the desert, and you've been walking for 3 days. You haven't had a bite to eat. You haven't had anything to drink. And then you come upon this diner all by itself in the desert. And there's a sign on the diner. And it says, we have two specials today, a dried-up hamburger or a full meal with everything, including lots of drinks and ice and everything to refresh you and feed you. Which one do you pick? And I said, I would pick that one, the one with all the food. And he said, oh, you heard this joke before, didn't you? And I said, no. He said, I told you I could make a sound. All of that just to get me to say no. So that's what I'm picturing that diner right now in this conversation. The Never Open Desert Diner is James Anderson's book. If this is made into a movie, it's going to be an easy movie to make because you're so visual. That's what I'm thinking. When you introduce a female character into a book and there's a romance, is that? I mean, you can speak from a publisher's perspective as well as your own perspective as the writer. Is it difficult? Is it touchy? Is it dangerous? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to speak just as a male and tell you, oh yeah, it's always dangerous whether it's in a book or not. Yeah, I mean, you want it to be authentic. and you want it to develop in a way that's believable. And he the interest, the romantic interest here, is Claire, who shows up in this model home in the middle of an abandoned housing development in the high desert, and she's playing a cello with no strings. And of course, it's an uneasy meeting. And the first meeting, of course, I won't spoil it, but it's under very embarrassing circumstances. And so it has to develop naturally, and I hope it does.
She's playing a cello without strings,
Yes.
and this is a hard thing to imagine. Yeah, now that's a great movie moment too. Do you have aspirations for this being made into a movie? I mean, as a filmmaker yourself, is that, or would you be the one doing it?
Oh no. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I think, and I think that Los Angeles is the bullshit capital of the world.
Oh,
and
you're on the radio.
I'm sorry.
Where's that 7-second button? Hold on, there's a button over here somewhere. Go ahead.
But the thing is that what happens or doesn't happen, I don't have any control over. Yes, there is interest, and that's fine. I don't handle that. I will tell you this, that if it does get sold, I will cash the check.
You really have a depth to your story, though. I mean, you did that documentary with Susan Sarandon about the Tibetan women, and you have to have a truly a caring in your soul to bring about this type of story in this book, because you've really created a true community there with the characters.
And that's one of the things that drew me myself as the author into the book. I wanted to create a real sense of place. So by the time you finish the book, you feel like you have been somewhere special. And a big part of that is that intersection between the geographical region and the people. Just here in Florida, I mean, we're all so tied up in the environment. It determines to a large extent who our friends are, what we do for a living, everything, and that's what gets created out in the Utah desert. At least I hope it does. So yeah, I love people, and I was a co-producer on Tara's Daughters that Miss Sarandon narrated. I was fortunate enough to actually do part of the narration with her. But it's basically a film about how the women of Tibet have carried the culture of Tibet into exile after being invaded by China.
Yeah, very, very moving.
So let's see. I wanted you to talk about the guy named Walt Butterfield.
Walt is crusty, embittered, violent, a loner, and yet you begin to understand why he is that way.
But he owns the diner.
And he owns the diner.
See, why would I want to buy a breakfast from a man like that?
Well, that's just it. The diner looks so inviting. It's out there in the middle of nowhere. In a way, it's like those. It's like the Bates Hotel in a way, except it looks a lot nicer. And Walt is the way he is for a reason. I mean, you begin to understand. At one point, Ben says, "You're crazy," and he says, "Yeah, maybe so, but I earned it." And you find out why he earned it. So, as far as the people go, Walt is a fascinating character, and he's actually, I've worked on crews of men for a large part of my life, off and on, doing masonry and logging and commercial fishing and so on. And he's the kind of guy that gets up every morning, does what he needs to do, takes care of his family, and if you cross him and his family, he's not going to forget it.
Well, that's the kind of guy you want. You want a watchdog
Yeah.
in your family, right? A pretty lady and a watchdog, right?
You bring it seemed that you inadvertently brought hope into your story by having the character of Ginny exist, and that's what a lot of people need these days is hope.
Yes, and the thing is, we have to talk about a lot of us older folks talk about how these young people are lazy and whatnot. Here she is. She's 17 years old. She's homeless, punk teenager. She's had to drop out of school, but she got a GED. She's living in her car, and yet she ends up being the heroine of the story. She is a resourceful, smart, determined young woman, and she saves Ben's life. She really does.
You referred to your age. My notes say that you're 63. I trust that that's true. Is that true?
You know what? It is going to be true next week.
Okay. So Robin and I are the same age as you.
Happy birthday.
And if when we were 20, if we were speaking to you at that age, we would have said, "Wow, this guy's really old, isn't he?"
Yeah.
And if we're still doing radio shows at 80 and we speak to somebody 63, we're going to say, "He's just a young man."
That's right.
So it's
a young kid.
It really is relative. When somebody dies now, now that we're this age, when somebody dies at 60 or 59, we always say, "Gosh, you're so young."
Yeah, because we're 60.
Hello.
They actually did a study a number of years ago about what people considered old, and almost uniformly it was 10 years older than whatever their present age was.
That's probably true, yeah.
Somebody was 80, they'd say, yeah, no, when you get to be 90, that's old. And I guess if you're 100, they say, no, if you're 110, then you're old. But
regarding writing a book, it says here that one of the questions that's provided to me is something about it's never too late to write a book. Well, it's never too late to do anything if you have the physical abilities, right, and the mental abilities.
Well, that's just it. And since we are the same age, I'll just say this. As you get older, you're thinking about all these things you'd like to do in your life that you never quite did, and you start getting around our age, and if there's something you want to do, you best get to it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
There's a singer named Patti Smith, and she's kind of a.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember her? She was kind of a Mick Jagger-looking woman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah, she's a tremendous writer and poet as well.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. I'm glad you remember her. Well, she was on Mike Douglas when she was much younger, the Mike Douglas Show, and she said that I'm an artist and I'm a musician. So he goes, well, why aren't you doing more art? She says, well, I can do that when I get older. I won't be able to do rock music when I'm older. So.
Well, and she is doing that. She's doing a lot of writing now, and she's bringing a certain depth and wisdom to what she does now that. Well, it just isn't available to us in our 20s. I mean, let's face it.
Absolutely. Well, the same thing with writing a book. Whenever you have all the experience behind you, I mean, all of, not just age, but what you've done. I mean, if you had been born in the royal family, you wouldn't have had the truck driver experience, what else did it say? You were a lumberjack?
Lumberjack, yeah.
I mean, all of your life, everything you have contributes to the book. It didn't take you 2.5 years to write this book. It took you 63 years to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely correct. And the thing is that Ray Bradbury, who I just loved as a writer, he said, it's a marvelous thing. He said, because you never throw anything away. And he was talking about when he wrote Fahrenheit 451, and he wondered, gee, how do I know that paper burns at 451 degrees? Well, he had rheumatic fever for a few years when he was very young, and he basically read the entire library of the little town where he lived. And so, you retain all of these things, and then it comes out in this wonderful creative stew.
Yeah.
And sometimes you know where stuff comes from, and other times you don't, but it's there.
Well, you are a great interviewer. I can tell you, Rob and I do interviews all the time. I mean, every day we do several of them, and you have become one of my favorites automatically. The book is here. I have a copy of it, The Never Open Desert Diner. If you want it, call me. You can have it, and the rest of us have to go buy it. We've got 20 seconds. James, do you have a website?
I do. It's JamesAndersonAuthor.com.
Okay, excellent. And somebody's calling for the book. Let me give it away. I think you have a hit on your hands. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Jim.
You got it, Jim. It'll be waiting for you.
Okay, thank you.
We're up against the clock. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, guys. I really loved it.
Great interview.
Leaders of Germany, France, and Spain have arrived at the French mountain village where search continues for clues in the Germanwings flight. Investigators say the one black box recorder, which has been recovered, was badly damaged.
Our sense is that they have retrieved some valuable information from that black box, which is being analyzed in Paris.